Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the first ever live training session of 2024. Wanted to wish you all a happy and successful new year. Before we begin today's session and deep dive into test sets, for those of you who might be new to PractiTest, I wanted to take a few minutes to introduce you to the company and let you know a little bit more about who we are, what we do, and some upcoming events and webinars that we wanted to share with you. Okay, so let's begin. Welcome to today's session. My name is Helen Berkowitz. I'm a senior marketing manager here at PractiTest. For those of you who might be new to the PractiTest family, just a little bit more about us. We were founded in 2008 as the first fully SaaS-based test management platform or company. At the time, some of the others were really on-prem, and that raised a number of concerns over privacy and security of data. And so at PractiTest, we've made sure that our platform includes the most up-to-date required privacy and security protocols to protect your data. Over the years, we evolved into more of a test orchestration solution by including both manual and automated testing onto our platform. And today we've continued to evolve as well into becoming more of an AI-driven test management platform. The PractiTest technology includes a number of AI capabilities to help take the guesswork out of your testing and help you become more efficient, to automate many time-consuming tasks, as you'll probably see in just a few moments. PractiTest is trusted by a number of global leaders across the spectrum of businesses, from retail to education, from finance to healthcare, government, of course, technology, publishing, and many others. We've established ourselves as a leader in the test management space. Our customers trust us to help them deliver quality software faster and meet their consumer demand for digital services. The PractiTest platform, as you'll see shortly, is a very user-friendly platform with easy navigation and a great-looking interface to help you do what you do best. And as I said earlier, it is as private and secure as possible to make sure that your data is protected. Our customers really love us. They give us consistently positive feedback year after year in terms of high ROI, best-in-class support, fast implementation, easy administration, and many others. Couple of upcoming events and things we wanted to let you know about. Wednesday, January 17th, we have our first webinar of the new year with Matt Heuser, who is the Managing Director of Exelon Development. Matt is going to present test strategy on ongoing projects, building airplanes while they fly. He's really going to focus on how you can be more efficient in your testing and focus on what makes the biggest and most long-lasting impact into your QA and testing needs. So if you haven't signed up for that yet, keep an eye out for that. I'll send you some information in your inboxes in the next day or two, so you'll be able to find some information there. We've also just recently this week launched the new State of Testing survey. For those who may be unfamiliar, every year PractiTest publishes the State of Testing report. It really provides a snapshot on what is happening in the testing world on a global scale, from increased automation to CI/CD pipelines, new testing strategies. And so we really want to hear from you. Give us your opinion by completing the survey and help us take a snapshot of the state of testing in this new year. So go ahead and look out for that in your inbox as well. And finally, we'd love to hear from those of you who have already been using the PractiTest platform. Let us know what you think of it, what your experience has been using the PractiTest platform. So you'll see that in your inbox as well. Those who'd like to give us their feedback on using PractiTest through the G2 Crowd platform, you'll see some information on that, and we'll be giving away a gift card to those who would like to participate. For those who might be watching this later, we've got our second live training session of the month happening later this month on the 24th. So if you've been unable to join us today, please go ahead and join us in a couple of weeks. Okay, so today's agenda, which Antony is going to take over and present momentarily, we're going to go over best practices, including which tests can be grouped together inside of a test set to better organize and be more efficient, new techniques for increasing test execution, how to ensure proper sequencing, and how to organize your end-to-end processes using test sets. As always, we encourage you to raise your hand, ask a question, give us feedback if there's a particular topic you'd like us to cover, or dive deeper into a particular subject. Please let us know. We're always happy to get your feedback. So thank you again. And now I'm going to give the floor over to Antony and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Helen. You've given me an easier time than normal today. Normally I have to do the housekeeping. And,
always happy to help.
Oh, I might take you up on that. Be careful.
Okay. Have a good one, everyone.
Righto. So welcome to this session. As Helen said, the first of 2024 for the first time ever, which I hadn't quite thought of it like that, but anyway. And I also wanted to spend today deep diving more into the test sets and runs module of PractiTest. We're in the process of doing a lot of work on it and to make it work better and more easily for you. And for that reason, I wanted to take it in a more holistic view, talk about test sets and runs, and in that context, talk about firstly why we have a test set and run module in PractiTest at all. Many other systems just you create a test library and then you go and execute. Why is there this extra step in PractiTest, and how does it make things better? So the way that PractiTest works methodology-wise is that we use two separate modules for tests. The first is the test library, and that test library, you can think of it like a real physical library, but not a lending library where you take all the books out, but a library which is used for reference, where you go into the library, you take the books off the shelves, you have a look at them, but you don't take them out. If you want to do something like take them out, then what you have to do is you go to the photocopying machine, you make a copy of the books that you want, in this case, the test that you want, and then you take them and you put them in a folder and put them in your bag and take them away with you, the photocopies, rather than the original books themselves. And being able to use this analogy of taking out traceability copies of the test cases, which we call instances, and then putting them in folders, which we call test sets, or test suites, you could call them as well, has a number of advantages over just trying to run your test cases themselves. The first is that you can make your test cases generic. You don't have to have too many test cases, because for each different instance of that test case, which you may be doing with different permutations or contexts or parameters, you only need one original test case. So for example, let's say I want to test a login on a machine, and I want to test it for a web application, and I have 3 browsers which I need to test it on. I need to test it on Firefox, I need to test it on Chrome, and I need to test it on Edge. I don't need to write 3 completely separate tests, which I'm going to put in my test library and say test on Edge, test on Firefox, test on Chrome. All I need to do is write one test, and I say test my login, and I put that in my test library. Then when I want to actually execute it, I add it to 3 different test sets. One set of tests talking about various tests which I'm going to do for Chrome, one test set for various tests which I'm going to do for Edge, and one for Firefox. And using these 3 different sets of test sets, I can then mark them with custom fields, which are like smart tagging, to indicate that this test set is all to be performed on Chrome, another one to be done on Firefox, and the third one to be done on Edge. And that means that I don't have to maintain 3 different test cases now. I only have to maintain the original single test case, and then when I want to run it, my traceability copy called an instance in each of those 3 test sets will go back to the test library, check the instructions for it, and tell you what instructions to perform. If I have to update a particular test case, then I can do it in the test library, and that information will flow through to all future runs, wherever they are, in whichever test set they're in, of those test cases, and the instances will pick up the changes. Now, obviously, you don't want them to pick up any changes which have been made after you ran them. So the traceability runs one way. And once you've actually run the test in the test instance, then once you've done that, you won't need to change it, and its run history is fixed. So if you change the test case afterwards, it won't change any previously executed runs. It will only change it for future runs. And this has a wonderful advantage in that you can limit the number of test cases you had. Some time ago, I had a client who was just moving over from another test management system to ours. And they had a lot of permutation-based testing. They were testing particular endpoints and start points. And they needed to have a combination of, say, 30 start points and 30 endpoints. And in the previous system that they'd used, they had written thousands of tests to cover each of those start points and endpoints. So they said to me, I said to them, how many tests do you have? They said about 18,000 tests. Why? Because they had 900 combinations of every single test. And we worked it out. We worked out that they didn't really have 18,000 tests. They actually only had a couple of hundred tests, but each of those tests was having to be permutated within the test case. And if there was a change made to any of those test cases, I said to them, how do you manage to change them? If you change one test case, you're going to have to change 900 different test cases and manually switch them. And they said, you're right, we can't do that. And what we have to do is we have to destroy our whole execution framework and then go back and recreate it after a test case has been changed. And I said, that's absolutely ridiculous. With the way our methodology, all you do is you change the one test case, and then when you run it on any one of those 900 permutations, it will automatically pick up the change and be able to execute it for you with that. So that's one great advantage of using a test library and test sets and run system. But there are others as well. For example, if you want to build end-to-end tests, but you don't want to build them in a single test case, you want to be able to break the tests up into smaller blocks, then what you can do is you can take a group of tests, take those tests and put them in to a test set and call that test set your end-to-end test. And so you'll have the stages visible, and it will show clearly in your test set, in the instance grid, the stages of your testing and each part of the test as well. The other thing, obviously, which you might want to use test sets for is versioning. If you're doing different versions, you don't want to have to create new test sets every time manually from scratch, every time you do a new version. Or if you're doing regression testing, you want to be able to create yourself a regression suite, which you will then execute on each version. So you have a custom field for my version or my sprint or whatever it is. You set it to be for whatever version number it is. You then set your test set to be a regression test set. Again, with another custom field, you can set your test levels. The custom fields, you can set as many custom fields as you want, and they can cover any area that you want, and you just set them up yourself and put the different numbers, different options within them. So if you want to do test level, new functionality testing, regression testing, or sanity testing, for example, you could do those all in a custom field and set your test set to be set at that level. And finally, if you're doing automation testing, you may want to have test sets which are purely for automation and test sets which are purely for manual testing. And then you can put the test sets against each other, again using fields, and customize them so that you can see within your test sets, have them separate, and be able to see what's going on at any particular time with those test sets. So having talked about the methodology and why you'd want test sets, let's go and have a look at PractiTest itself and show how the test set module works and what's actually in it. So I'm going to share my screen now, and hopefully in a moment you should be able to see it. There we go. If you have any problems, please let me know in the chat, but I believe I should be sharing my screen now. If you have any questions, as Helen said before, please feel free to either write in the chat or put in the Q&A your questions, and I'll stop and we can try and come to them in real time so that you don't have to wait until the end. At the end, we'll have a question and answer session anyway, if you want to ask questions, but feel free to raise your hand, put a question in the Q&A at any time you like. So here we are looking at a set of tests in the test library. And I'm going to take it from the beginning of the stage. We've got our test cases here. I want to put a group of tests into a test set. Now, you can either open up a test set and add them, or the quickest way might be to select them from the grid in the test library and create a new test set. So I'm going to take a group of a few tests. Here we go. Let's take these. And now I'm going to create a test set. Click Create a Test Set. And then it opens the test set GUI. And I have to put in a name. That is absolutely vital, otherwise it won't save. And I'm going to call this test set Afternoon of 10th Jan. There we go. I can give it a description if I want. Hello testing, maybe. This isn't compulsory, it's optional. And then we start going into the fields. So we've got the status field here, which allows you to add it to the task board. We've got time planning. So if you want to do a planned execution date, you can set the planned execution date over here. Let's say that that's for tomorrow. And we can even set a time for that if we want as well. Click Apply. Then we could go to here. This is a custom field which I've set, which is again a time field, which is called JJJ. It's just something in my testing project. And then a change date. Maybe you want to have a change date when there's been a change. That's just things which I put in. By default, the system doesn't show those. It just shows the planned execution date. And then we've got the user section. These fields are all set out in the logical order here with regard to best practices in UX design, UI, UX design, so that the user experiences the logical flow, the way the mind takes things. And so the next one will be the assign to field. We can assign it to somebody. And then we've got below our custom fields. And these are the custom fields which I've chosen to set up. You would have different fields. You might have fewer fields. I wouldn't advise you to have significantly more fields. I think this is enough for a particular module, because otherwise people get tempted to try and not fill them in. You can make them compulsory, but sometimes they won't know the answers at that particular moment. You could put a TBA, for example, to be a value in the field as well. So I've got a version field here, which I can fill in if I need to. Browser, there's my browsers. Operating system. Marshmallow, that sounds good. Apply. Test type is new functionality. Folder, if applicable. Execution type, automated or manual. Again, you won't necessarily have all of these fields. You might just have a group of them. And then at the bottom, it has appeared the box here to tell me that I need to create the test set. So I click the create box, and then it will create it for me. In the general tab, you see I've got tabs across the top over here. Now it's being created. And if I look at the general tab, you can see all the fields that we had before. The instances tab shows me the grid with all my instances in it. And then I can add attachments to the test set if I want to, or comments to the test set. And I can also see, of course, the history of the test set. So here we're showing adding the instances. Those are the 3 instances that we added, and that the test set was created in order going through here. So if we go back to the instances over here and take a look at the instances, you can see we've got 2 sections to the screen. We've got a little bit over here about the execution and how it's been progressing. So you can see at the moment we created it today and it's set at no run. Everything's at no run. You can see over here also the run status. And if I hover over here, they're all tests, 100% are at no run over here. Then in the bottom section, we have our instances. And again, this grid is totally customizable. I can put into it exactly what I want. So let's take a little play and go back through the instances over here. we're going to click the Edit Columns button and take a look at the various columns here. And you can see all the columns which are available. And you can see that also there are columns which are not part of the test sets and runs module in the system. So for example, let's go through them. We've got the planned execution date, which I can have. We've got the assigned to. We've got the test instance name. Now the assigned to is instance level. So if I want to have assigned to for both the whole test set and for individual instances, I can set that if I want to. I've got the name of the test instance over here, which I think probably should be a little bit higher up over here. So we're going to put it over here at the top, test instance name, planned execution assigned to. If you want the ID, you can have that. You can have the ID from the test case in the test library module. You can have any linked issues. If you create a fail and issue, and you've created issues which are linked to these instances, they will appear in the linked issues column over here. We can have parameters, step parameters showing as well over here in the grid as well. The duration estimate, the last run durations available. Then so that you can compare how long it should have taken against how long it did take. Test description, if you want, you can show even the test description field here. Test plan execution date as opposed to the instance planned execution date. Again, this is according to your processes and your own setup. You will decide which ones you want to set. You can see custom fields from the test library section displayed in this grid as well. And then at the bottom, you can see things from the test set as well. So you can see last runs, you can see when it was last run, the status, the current release. If you've got custom fields in a run, then you can see them over here if you want to as well, fixed by last run. You'll see the last run status. You can see who the tester was, who actually tested it. Apart from who was assigned to test it, you can see who actually tested the test over here. And then down here, if you want to have a reviewed by, you can say that it was reviewed and have a user reviewing it. That's visible here as well. And then any other field which you've got runs count, automation status, user story, etc. So any fields which you've set up in the run, the instance, or the test library, you can see in this grid over here when you've actually got it. So here we are, that's the edit column. If you want to add new instances to the grid brought in from another test case, you can do that by clicking on the add new instance button over here. And when you click that, it shouldn't say error packaging test. Let's go to all tests. It probably means that I've got a filter problem somewhere in it. So if I click on here, there we go. You can see at the moment, these are the tests which I had selected. And those are, let's click there. A lot of these filters will be empty because I haven't used them. There we go. So we can see we've got tests over here. Let's select another test and add it over here. There we go. Let's add a couple of tests over. Let's not add DDD. Let's add another scripted test. And we can scroll through and we can see all of our tests. You can do filters now on the grid as well. So if I want to filter it by name and look for a particular name, let's say I want to look for login. I can click apply. And then if I've got names which contain either tests containing login or something with the information about login, there we go. They're all my login tests. And I can select all my login tests if I want to. Let's select those. Okay. And I'm going to click add selected test. You can see the different test types, scripted, API test, automation test, I've got available over here. And if I've got any test preconditions, again, I can edit the columns to see them in the test so that I can work out the information that I want to show. Let's click add selected test. And there we go, they've been added. So that's the next section over here. Then, of course, I can execute the tests. I can execute them by clicking over here on the little green arrow to make them execute. Let's just go over here to the run and click run. And when I click it, it will then bring me to the run page. And you'll see here, I've got my tester, the conditions, information. There's not very much in it. This is just a testing test. And I can write my actual result. This works. And we're going to click pass on. If we go back now to the test set using the breadcrumb trail over here, you can see that this test has now been run. You can see over here I've got the test requirement Halloween, and I've got my duration estimate over here. Tester Antony Lipman, it's showing that I've got a tester. And if I scroll across, you can change the order of these columns, as I showed before. It's not a particularly sensible order at the moment. And there we are, it shows us passed, last run, and it shows my step status bar. There was only one step, and that one step passed. And so it's now showing as being run. And you can see if we click, just refresh the screen a moment. And you can see we've got one run over here. So now we've got this run. Let's take a look at this run again. And let's run this test again. And this time it's going to fail. So I'm going to click the green button again. And we're going to click save and run now. And we're going to have a second run goes wrong. And I'm going to click on the fail and issue button here to show it's failed. And when I click the fail and issue button, it's going to create a bug for me with all of my information automatically populated here. I've got a compulsory field here, which I need to fill in, and over here as well. And then I'm going to submit issue and continue testing. Now, if I go back to my test set over here now, you'll see that the status has changed on this test to fail. And you'll see that it's also put up a linked issue over here. Now, this linked issue is set in bold because it means that it's on the current last run. If I go and run this test again, and then we move on and we say this is passed now, and we don't link the issue to it anymore, you'll see what happens to it. So if I go to pass this time, and now we go back, you'll see it's now showing, but it's no longer bold. You can click on the issue, of course, to go straight inside it. There we go, issue number 78. So now we've got our issue over here, linked issue not showing as bold. Now, if you have your test set up as an end-to-end test, and let's say that this is a group test, and you want to set them in a specific order, we could do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select and drag it to the order. So this one's now number 1, and I'm going to take a couple of others. I'm going to move number 4 up to number 2. And so I've got now, just widen this a bit so that I can see more clearly. There we go. So now, oh, we should have login tests first, shouldn't we? So let's move the login test to the beginning. There we go. 1. Now, if I have a project which is primarily set up to have end-to-end testing like this, and we need to run the test in order, then I can set my account, my project settings, so that this project will be locked and it will only be accessible in the correct order. So if I go here and click Enforce Run Order, this is only available for corporate accounts. And for those of you, if you have corporate accounts, that's fine. Or otherwise, if you're thinking about getting corporate accounts, that's relevant. If you don't have a corporate account and are intending to get a corporate account, then don't bother to listen to the next 30 seconds. Or maybe get a corporate account as a result of it. So I've now set Enforce Run Order is enabled. If I now go back to my test set, click the refresh button, and now I try and run them. Let's try and run this middle one over here. Going to click on it. Oh, I must have done something wrong. What did I do wrong? Okay, let's try again. Let's go to account settings. I didn't click the save button, did I? So I went to here and then I didn't click save. Always remember to click the save button when necessary. So now if I go back it should work and refuse to do it. So let's go back to die test sets and runs. Whoops. There we go. And I'm going to try and click the run button now. And there we go. Cannot run this instance, run order is important. Now, I'm an administrator on the account. But if I wasn't an administrator and I thought, oh, I'll change the run order so that I can run this, only administrators are allowed to change the run order once the run order enforcement has been inflicted on the particular project. So don't think if you're not an administrator, you'll be able to get away with changing the run order, because you can't, and it's only for administrators now to change the run order now that it's been set up. So let's just go back to project settings and turn this off. Of course, run order is now turned off. And so that allows you to enforce the run order to be set so that people have to run the test in the correct order and they can't run in any other order. And this becomes, of course, particularly necessary if your tests have to be run in sequence. Because if they have to be run in sequence, then you can't just go in any particular order and run them. Now, one of the things that we suggest with regard to enforcing run orders is that quite often you'll have to have different people running different tests. So the first two tests might need to be run by me, the second two tests might need to be run by somebody else, and the final two tests by a third person. So let's show how we can do that using the custom fields of assign to within the test. So I'm going to set these two and select them. And then I'm going to go to batch edit. So if I click batch edit over here, then I can select the assign to and change the assign to me. I'm going to click update, and you'll see that we've got some other instance level fields as well, which I could set as well if I needed to. So I'm going to update that. And then the next two, we're going to set to somebody else. And we're going to set batch edit. And I'm going to click assign to, and then I'm going to go to this guy, update, okay. Okay, so there we are. The first two tests need to be run by me, the next two by this guy. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to suggest a little process to make sure that people know what they're meant to be doing. Because it's all very well having these assigned instances hidden away in here. Once you get to this page, you know who's got to do what and in what order. So what we're going to do is I'm going to run these tests. And if you go back to the general tab, you can see that is assigned to me, this test. So I've received an information, I've received an email, because I can have notifications turned on, to tell me that this test set has been assigned to me. And now I'm going to come in and run my test. So I'm going to click on this test, run it. Missing step parameters, configure steps, okay, URL, save parameters. There we go. Save and run now. There it goes. So there, do it, they're done. It was done. Pass. And I'm going to pass this one as well. And then I'm going to click on run next test, because I need to run the second one as well. Figure steps for that as well. It's also a URL test. There we go. Save parameters. We're going to run that as well. And then once I've done that, I'm going to click pass all steps on this. So I've got the pass all steps button here. Yes, I do want to pass all steps. And now, if we go back to the test set, you'll see that I have now performed my duties and I've performed my two tests. So if we scroll across, you'll see that tester Antony Lipman is passed. And now I need to pass on to the second person in the list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the test sets and runs. Whoops, sorry, I'm not going to go back to the test sets and runs. I'm going to go back to the general tab, and I'm going to change the assign to of the test set. He still knows that it's assigned to him, but I'm going to change the assign to of the whole test set. I've changed one property, click save, and I'm going to click save. And now the test set is assigned to this guy. He's going to receive an email telling him that the test set is now assigned to him. So he can now click on the set, come in here, and now he will perform his testing duties on these particular tests in the row as well. So that's the section over here. We could also click on, if we look at this section, we could also click on the run button here, and this will take us automatically through the instances one by one. So we start here and we just move through the instances, run the next test, and we just go through the instances one by one. And so it will take us through the whole process, the whole end to end in one go. So that's the ability to use the run all button or to run the individual tests over here. Once we've done that, we can talk about some of the great things about the instances grid over here. And as you'll see, the instances grid now contains full filtering. So you can filter or sort by any column in the instances grid. So supposing I want to filter by name, I just want to see the login test. No, it won't work. That will work. Click apply. You'll see that the ones which aren't login tests will disappear over here. If you want to then look at, for example, let's move across and have a look at the last run status. Supposing I want to see just passed or blocked. So I can click on here and I can go and click pass over there or block. And it can show two different values at once in this filter. So I can see both passed and blocked if I want to. I can do it by looking for linked issues. I can sort by up and down as well. And so I've got full filtering capabilities. Let's just click the reset and get rid of those filters. This is fully customizable. The widths of the columns are adjustable as well, including the parameters column, to make sure that you're able to see if you've got step parameters set, you can set your parameters exactly the way you want to have them set as well. And so you've got complete flexibility here to see exactly what you want to in your grid and to be able to filter and sort it as well. Even getting the order of the sequencing, the way you want to view it as well. So you've got the sort and the filtering here completely available to the way you want to see it. Are there any questions up to this point? Because I've been talking a lot. Anyone like to ask any questions? Okay, so let's just talk about a few more little bits and pieces about the way that the test sets and runs part of the system work. We've got the history now, which we can have a look at again and see the changes which have been made over here to the test set. Again, filtering, you can filter by particular users or information dates that you want to see in the test sets and runs history as well. And if we go back to the instances themselves, you can see that we've got over here all of the instance information. We've also got a couple of extra things over here. We've got the 3 dots over here. And if we click on those, you can see that we've got the ability to add a new test. Things which aren't used quite so commonly, you could do over here. So things like add a new test, you can create a new test directly into the test set without having to go via the test library. So here you are, let's create it and add it as an instance. Test 10 Jan, 120 Jan maybe, 10 Jan. And then let's give it a bit of a description. Let's give it some steps, add a step here. And then we're going to do one more step over here. There we go. And now we're going to save it and create the test and put it into the test set as well. So we've got it all, them all appearing over here. There's the test 20 Jan, 10, 20 Jan over there. It's now appearing as number 8, which is our most recent one. If we want to move it up, of course, we can move it up to the top of the sequence. There we go. Put it within one of the top. There we are, up to the top of the sequence. There we go. And now it's been saved and it's in the test set as well. It's been added to the test set. So that's the purpose of creating a new test. It's much quicker than doing a manual, creating the test library, putting it into the test set over here like this. You can delete instances over here by selecting them. We don't want to show deleting instances because it's a less common operation, but now you can delete them. And also, of course, you can set parameters as well. So let's set some parameters. These tests are the URL tests. So let's click on that and let's set the URL over there. Update parameters. Okay. This isn't a URL field. This is just a text field which has URL set as the name of it. Otherwise, it would force me to put in a genuine URL, just to make that point. Okay, so if we're over here, let's bring in our parameters column. So we're going to click over here, and we're going to turn on our parameters column, and then let's bring it up to the very top. There we are. And over here, we've got our parameters showing over here. And the ones which have parameters showing, they are now showing over here. Let's widen the column. And there we can see we've got our parameters, they're URL parameters, and they've got their values on them as well. So again, the parameters are visible in the test instance grid to make sure you know exactly what you're doing and what you're expecting to see when you actually run the test as well. Okay, so I think that we're coming towards the end now. There's just a couple more things. The other 3 dots down at the bottom of the page over here, we have a new feature, which is the instant tabular summary report. We've had many people asking us, can you create a report just based on a single test set? And until recently, we haven't been able to do that. This is something which is a brand new feature. So what you could do now is, instead of having to go and create a filter for the whole test set, then go to the reports module, selecting that filter, that temporary filter just for the one test set, filtering it by name, and then clicking create a tabular summary report. You can now do it instantly by just clicking here, instance tabular summary report. It takes you straight to the module, the reports module, with a test set ID already filled in, generate by test set ID. You just put the name of the report you want, select your fields, and hit the create button, and then it creates for you your tabular report. Much faster method than in the past of creating particular reports just for a single test set. We also have a couple of other interesting things here as well. We have the ability to print the list of test instances. We also have the ability to clone a test set, or only to clone the failed instances in a test set. Supposing you want to, it's not an end-to-end test set where you have to test the whole thing, but you only want to retest the failed instances. You can do that by clicking on clone failed instances only, and that will clone them to a new test set for you, and you'll be able to see just the failed instances in that new test set. Finally, before we go, I'd like to show you one more thing about methods of creating a test set. We showed how you can create a test set by selecting test instances from test cases from the test library and creating a new test set. Next to that, there was also an option to add to an existing test set, where you select the ID of the existing test set you'd like to add to. We also showed over here, add new instance, the add new instance button over here, which allows you to create new instances in the test set, or add a new create a new test. But there's also one other method, and that is from the requirements module. We had a lot of requests from people saying to us, we want to be able to take a requirement which has linked tests in it, and then create a test set for every test which is in that requirement module. So here we have our test requirement ballerina here. We look at the requirement in the requirements module. Here it is, trick or treat. And then we've got our traceability, and it shows all of these test cases which are linked to this particular requirement. You can see that they've all been run, but they've all been run in different places, in different test sets, and quite haphazardly. Supposing I want to be able to take all of these test cases and run them together in a single test set. And it makes sense because usually requirements will be about a specific feature. They use a story. So they will be for a specific feature. So you would want to test that whole feature together. So the way that we can do it is if we go back now to the grid. There we go. We can click on the number 17 and select it. And then we can create a test set from over here directly just for this requirement. And back again to the description, etc. I'm not going to go through the whole process again of going through all the custom fields. I'm just going to hit the create. Oh, we need the name, of course. We can't get away without that. So it's Halloween requirement. Requirement. There we go. And I'm going to click the create button. And now you can see over here, we have got all of our tests which are linked to the Halloween requirement. What it's done is it's taken all the linked tests, it's created new test instances of them within a single test set so that we can run them together. And over here, you can see that it's all blank because the run status is now blank for this particular test set and it hasn't been used yet. And that is basically the test sets and runs module. As you can see, it tries to be very user friendly. If you don't want to see the grid over here, you can close it off and hide it or expand it, whichever you prefer. And using the test sets and runs grid and using the test sets module, as we said, allows you to have much more flexibility in the way that you're testing. You can bring in automation tests to a particular test set and use them as well. You can use your test set to build up dashboards and reports. We've shown reporting on an individual test set. You can also use filters to report on groups of test sets. And so using the test sets is an integral part of operating with PractiTest and using it for your testing processes. And on that note, if anyone has any questions, please ask them now. No? Okay, so there will be recordings available of this session if you want to either share them with other people or you want to watch them again yourself, and you feel you want to inflict more on yourself. Otherwise, thank you for joining the session today. Appreciate your attending, and I hope that it's been useful to you. Have a good rest of the day, afternoon, morning, or evening, wherever you are.